Okay, Cass. Give it to me. What are you thinking?
Insanity in football. When has the head become like a tackle? I don't get it. I've been involved in football for 43 years. I've never seen an incident like that where a player, Saliba is, obviously Pedro gets a touch on the ball. Saliba's eyes are totally fixed on trying to get to the head. And as the manager, Huntelaar, says, he touched. So he's touched a penalty. So if I touch you in the penalty box, that's a pen, is it? Being touched. That's how we're describing fouls. He's been touched. It's just, honestly, Nat, I watched it last night and I've seen it probably about 40 times and there's not one part of me thinks, is that really a penalty? Oh, come on. Are we at a level where we have to look at football and that is deemed a penalty?
Right.
It's a clash. It's not even a clash of heads. It's a touch of heads.
Yeah.
Please don't say you think it's a penalty.
No.
Oh.
I actually don't think it was a penalty. Partly because, one, I think Saliba has every right to go for that ball. So I'm of the thinking there are sometimes penalties given away that an attacker and a defender have every right to go for the ball,
which you want.
Yes,
in football.
So I think that sometimes should play a part in whether you give a decision, whether it is a penalty, whether it's a red card, for example. There's a difference between contending something than trying to. And then being late or fouling or trying to hurt somebody. There's a complete difference. So I looked at that penalty and just thought that's ridiculous because Saliba has a right to defend his goal and that's what he's trying to do. It's not the first time because it has happened before. Last season it happened in a Celtic Hibs game, similar incident, clash of heads, penalty given. So it's not a bizarre, unheard of thing in football.
Well, I've never seen it. Okay,
but it is quite rare. It is rare because most of the time a clash of heads is because two players are going for the ball. They're, and I'm trying to think where if it was across somewhere else on the pitch, would a foul be given? More often than not, is it a drop ball? I don't know. I'm trying to think, what else would happen?
Well, normally a clash of heads, it would be, and he went down, it'd be stop play.
Well, of course.
That's the procedure, to stop play. But I don't think you give a penalty for it. I mean, look, Nat, there's thousands of games all over the world on a regular basis, week by week. There's games everywhere. And I'm estimating, there could be up to tens of thousands of games on a regular basis, and you're going, and that's the first time I've seen that incident.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
That's the first time I've seen it.
No, I agree with you. Like I said to you, we had it in our little group chat. None of us thought it was a penalty because I think we all believe that Saliba has every right to go for it, just as João Pedro has every right to go for it. So,
I mean, the description by Huntelaar to say touched. He's even saying it's nothing in it, really, but he's touched. Because it's never a foul.
But do you know what?
It's an accidental because what you said, he's absolutely every right to defend that situation. And he's focused totally on the ball. Not one Brighton player appealed and not one Arsenal player looked like he'd made a mistake. It just the whole reaction of both sides sort of said to you, there's nothing in that to give a penalty. There isn't for me anyway. So.
Yeah, I know. What I don't get, I can't see how Anthony Taylor can, from that angle that he's at, deem that Saliba's not got a touch on the ball, for example. Well, now people have looked at it and different replays of it, and he has. People are saying that Saliba does get a touch on the ball. So therefore, is it a penalty if he gets a touch on the ball? Probably not, based on what we believe to be the football laws. But how can Anthony Taylor assume? That's an assumption once more.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I headed the ball a lot, okay? That was my biggest attribute. I was good at heading the ball, okay? Hundreds and thousands of headers in my career. Many times I've got headed by a defender, going for a flick on. So I'm up on the halfway line, I flick the ball on. If he leads with his elbow, absolutely dangerous play for me. That can easily be given a penalty.
Yeah, of course.
But just a casual touch, and I got headed in the back of the head, the side of my head, on top of my head. many, many times. Did I think they were fouls? No, they weren't. We're both going because we're both trying to win the ball. Okay? So if I'm going to give pens for that, I'm like, well, and I said to you, Nat, many times over the last few years, what a penalty is going to be in 2030. That's what's a pen today.
Well, the issue with that penalty, and like I said to you, it has happened before. It's a rarity, but it has happened before. But players will look at that and think, should I make a challenge now? Because they don't know if a referee might give a penalty for
you might as well play
an accidental
handball.
clash of heads. Yeah.
You might as well play handball. Just that you can't get near anyone, you can't touch anybody. I mean, I don't know if anyone notices, but every corner and every free kick, everybody's fouling the hell out of each other. You know, you're watching people grab. I watched yesterday in a game, and I'm watching Enzo Fernandez. He's trying to get hold of Mateta at every opportunity. He's doing what nearly everyone else does. So you're going to give a pen for a touch of heads. Now, what could be, it's hard to give a foul, by the way, with a head because you're obviously your vision is literally focused on the ball. Nobody wants to clash heads. You know why? Because it's really painful.
Yeah, of course.
So you're putting you know, when you're going for that header and you clash heads, that can really hurt. And whoever's head batted another player knows what I'm talking about. You know, on the danger sides of heading. I just didn't get it. I was like, wow, I just couldn't believe. I thought it was an insane decision.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm looking at it slightly differently in the sense of I go back to what I was saying about Anthony Taylor. You're guessing. You are guessing it that he's not touched the ball. And maybe
you mentioned the great example earlier, Nat, and it's a Norgard at Everton. Do you remember when where he goes in for the the red card where he goes in? This was
off air before we came on it.
Yeah, before it. Go on, tell us that.
Well, no, I mean,
that's a great example of going for the ball.
Well, we talked about it at the time, and look, maybe I was biased. And again, this does come into the conversation because Brighton fans will be like, well, of course it's a penalty, but if it was the other way around, Brighton fans wouldn't think that. I'm sure most wouldn't think that. And maybe there are people listening in right now who are screaming at us saying, of course it's a penalty. Please shed light to tell us why, 8-10-89, why you think it was a penalty. But yeah, the Norgard incident was at Goodison where it was the goalless draw in the end, but he was sent off just before half-time. He was going for the ball because the ball's lofted into the box.
Into an area.
He's kind of near to the far post. He's going for it. And his leg, because he's of his sort of momentum.
He's stretching, isn't he?
Yeah, his momentum
to get a goal.
Takes his leg up and it does hit Jordan Pickford. But again, Pickford's come out to make the challenge, to try and win the ball, to try and stop the goal, potentially a goal-bound effort from Norgard. Now, that was given as a straight red card. So it sort of... but then it was rescinded because they appealed it, Brentford. I didn't think they would win the appeal. I genuinely thought they weren't going to win that appeal, but they did. And I just think there are times in football where players have a right to go for a ball, whether you're a defender or an attacker. That is what the game is about. Yeah. You are going to have contact. Sometimes those incidents are going to happen, but there's a difference between contact, fair contact, than what could be a mistimed tackle or a blatant foul.
Yeah. And a ridiculous high reward. A shot from 12 yards.
Yeah.
Okay. On a one-on-one.
We've had some messages coming in, and I'm conscious that we have to hit a break, of course. But this one from Guy, for example, if you deliberately headbutt an opponent, it's a free kick. Or
it's not deliberate.
In this case, a penalty. This was not accidental. Just another incident of Arteta's dark arts. Well, I don't agree with that.
It was definitely accidental.
And Rob, who is a Brighton fan, definitely a penalty. It's his typical bias from talkSPORT to the so-called Big Six. Well, that's not true either, Rob, because there was an elbow when Brentford played Brighton, didn't they? Yeah. João Pedro wasn't sent off, and he should have been sent off. The consensus all round was he should have been sent off. So there's no bias there towards Big Six. No. Neither club are in the Big Six hunt, if you like.
If that had happened to Brighton and it was Arsenal had been rewarded a penalty, I'm exactly the same place. Never ever is that a penalty.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because we're having different views, and we'd love to hear your views this morning on it. Do you think it was a penalty or not?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.